Hello, and here's a quick preview of the frame and door blueprint that is a placeholder for community maps for Grand Branch until such time as we get our hands on the actual proper door blueprints, just to allow some degree of interaction in our maps before they're converted or imported rather. And yeah, hopefully they can be seamlessly replaced once the modding is opened up. But anyway, here is a plain old static mesh of a gate, and I'm trying to make it openable. So I find my door system blueprint and just replace it, and here is the generic door. Now this blueprint defines a list of doors and frames and specifies a dimension for them, and here you can see the blueprint, so separate sections for the lock, the handle, the door and the frame. And you start with the frame and pick your dimension, and this happens to be a 2-meter gate, but you have various different sizes. That's not set up properly. This one is, and you can see that each time it picks the right frame and door for that dimension. But this is the gate I want. So first of all I need to just tweak the placement of it. What it can't do at the moment is scale the whole thing. I just don't want to think about that. That's going to be a tricky task. So for now, if you want to have a different size door, you have to make a separate frame and a separate mesh, but that's not unreasonable, I think. And to set it up, the frame, let me just get the blueprint over here. So I have a hidden variable, or some hidden variables: door list, frame list, handle list and lock list. Lock list is just a series of static meshes of different types of lock that are available. The frame list is rather more involved, and so for a particular frame you have the dimension that it is, a pointer to the static mesh, and a little tick box of whether you reverse the door rotation. I'm not sure I'm going to keep that, but that's just so that you can, if a frame is back to front to the normal way, it'll just do that automatically. And here is the 2-meter gate mesh. So let's just have a quick look at this. And I think this is it. So I've got it in this front mode to place sockets. So what you actually need is a door hinge socket. By default, you can change the name and put it in the properties, but you drag that around to define where the gate or the door will sit. Let's put it back into perspective. And you may need to change the rotation to 180, and you can see the way the green arrow is pointing. But that is the default setup. Now it's a bit trial and error. I can't tell you which is the right way to do that. You have to just go in here and have a look. And what I've got here in this test thing is you can just see for yourself how the gate opens. If it's the wrong way around, you can reverse the door, you can flip the frames, have it opening the other way, you can also flip the door, hard to see but that has turned it sort of inside out, and with those three things you should be able to get it working for most setups. The frame, the way the frame is set up, let's see, post only. At the request of BTH, I've made it so that the center of the frame is at the origin. So these are centered around the Z-axis and they're aligned along the X-axis. I did think about centering it there, but no. So it's centered in the middle, and that's very handy because that allows it to flip the frame over arbitrarily quite easily without moving the origin of it. So the whole reverse door and the frame, I'm getting a bit lost. Reverse door, what that actually does is it just flips the frame and everything's attached to the frame and that flips, but the effect is to make the door open a different way around. And because the frame is centered, that works. If it wasn't centered, it would flip off to there, or it'd flip off to there. And anyway, so you center the frame, but the doors, or the gate, are centered at the origin, about the hinge point. So you don't need to define where the hinge is on the door, it's just the origin, that bit there, and in this case it's centered exactly on the point where the pin sticks through, and on the actual frame you define the socket for the door. Now the door or the gate does have its own sockets for the handle and for the lock. The lock isn't used, but I've just defined a socket just to avoid problems down the line. And so the handle, I haven't yet turned this into a handle. What I'm going to do is do that and make it rotate that away, which is different to the way most handles rotate, which is, oh no, I suppose that is the same direction. So I think I can make that a simple handle and have it rotate in a bit when you're opening the door. For now that's just part of the mesh. But when there is a handle there, and in fact you need the handle socket defined anyway, even if the handle doesn't move, because the handle also defines where the trigger box goes to activate the door. So even if you're not moving a handle, you need to define where it is, so that, for example, on a very long door or a gate, this box here is the trigger zone, and that is automatically attached to where the handle is. So if you're walking up to it, let's just start that. When you get to that box, it opens, and when you get to the box, it closes. This is in the proximity activation mode. You can also set it to have a key press activation, key press to operate. So in this case, when you walk up to it, nothing happens. This is more like in game. Oh, good texture streaming pool over its budget, whatever. And F will activate it like a normal door. The sound effects are for a standard door, not entirely appropriate for a gate. You've got this audio section here where you can set sound cues for all kinds of things, for turning the handle, for opening the door, closing the door. This is set up for a standard door, but you can play around with that if you have any sound effects to hand. And like I said, this is a placeholder. This is not going to be in game, probably, mostly because of the horrible replication issues. This is not set up for multiplayer. It probably won't work. It may work, but it's not set up to do that. Okay, and let's say, just to look at another feature, let's say you go for a that size, dimension 1.1 by 2.1. I just happen to have, sorry, initial door angle. This is just before you play the game in the editor, it allows you to preview where the door is going to go. I have two frames defined. If I go next frame, it'll switch between them. What it won't do, for some reason I don't know, is update the attachment of the door. So that door should actually be attached further in. And if I change anything else, it goes to where it should be. And it may need to be reversed, in fact, flipped rather. Flip the frame, now I want to flip the door. Where's the door? Where's the door? Am I being... oh, I've closed it. So unflip the door, that's more appropriate, that's the inside. Or is that appropriate? I don't know. It's going the wrong way, I'm now getting confused. Reverse rotation. Okay, so that's another thing that will allow you to change the way the door works. So you'll get there in the end if you play with the flip and the reverse and see where it goes. You can set it to open once only, which is self-evident. You can set it to self-close, which means that after that delay it closes again. So let's have a little look. Oh, it's key press operated. So it opens, and after a short delay it closes. What else? Let's turn that off. You can define the sockets for these things, nothing clever there. Otherwise I think it's fairly self-explanatory. The lock, the handle, you can change how far it turns. I haven't tested this recently. This is adapted from another kind of system I did just for the doors. I can't remember what that does. And reverse the handle rotation, you may need that in some cases. And the lock, usually not visible. In this case I haven't set up the origin correctly, and it can be locked or not by default. There is a command in the blueprint, I think, or there should be a command to unlock. If there isn't, I'll add it so that you can have things talking to the door to unlock it, for example, based on mission objectives or stuff like that. And there is a feature where you can define, or you could define, I don't know where it's gone, dependent on lock. Right, that should be moved to the lock section, but that allows you to specify an object. I forget how I set this up, but that basically allows you to link it to a lock that could be destroyed or unlocked. For example, I had it set up in a level where there was a chain attached to a gate, and if you shot the chain or activated the chain, it unlocked the door. So it doesn't have to be a conventional lock. That could be extended, but there's no point getting too far into that because this is, again, just a placeholder. I happen to have those features already. So, yeah. So the frame you center, the door you put the origin on the hinge, the handle you set up. Let's find a handle. I don't know if I can find a handle quickly. But looking at the meshes for doors, there is a handle. That should be basically on the origin at 0, 0. So anyway, if you define the let's find a door. So you can see here the handle is attached to one side of the door. This is just how I've set it up with the meshes that I've got for the handles, and the handles themselves are centered on the axis, on the origin. It's hard to explain, but you know, play around with that, you can figure it out. And the lock is just a mesh. So hopefully that explains what that's all about. Here's some doors and meshes. I've yet to convert these to the new format. Yeah. I hope that's good. All right, bye.